Let's build a bridge to tomorrow.
Welcome to Silver Circles, an intergenerational conversation reflecting on the core values of who we are at Silver Oaks. In today's episode, which is titled Knowledge Seeker's Journey, we will be exploring this conviction through the learner profile attribute knowledgeable. When I say knowledgeable, the image and association that we have with the word is often of competence, of marks, of qualifications, of achievements. But for somebody to be a lifelong learner, it needs to be equally supported by character. The curiosity to keep asking the right questions, the discipline and willingness to keep learning through life, the courage to relearn and unlearn when needed, and the humility to understand that there is so much more to learn. Let me introduce you to the panelists. We have with us Ruchit Roy. He is a grade 9 student from Mighty Oaks campus. Apart from being a well academically performing student, he also partakes in other extracurricular activities. He started a debate club in school. He has participated and won in multiple debate competitions, making him an effective communicator. We have Aniket Topey, the alumni. Aniket is our alumni who is currently studying in IIT Bombay, pursuing his BTech in engineering physics. He studied in Silver Oaks from grade 1 to 10 and has been a top academic performer even then. We have our teacher, Ms. Harini Jagirdar. Harini is an IBDP economics educator with over a decade of teaching experience. Passionate about reading and real-world connections, she focuses on developing critical thinking and global awareness in her classrooms. She represents the teacher as an active, evolving knowledge seeker. We have our parent representative, Mr. Deepak Bharadwaj. Mr. Deepak Bharadwaj is the father of a bright Silver Oaks student. He also brings with him 20 years of experience in software engineering and data analytics, having worked with top companies like Microsoft, Optum, and Anthem. He is here to give a grounded perspective as both a parent and a professional. We have with us Ms. Sangeetha Pratti, the academic leader. She has led multiple IB evaluations and verifications and played a key role in designing inquiry-driven, transdisciplinary curricula at Silver Oaks. IB leader since 2014 and IB workshop leader, meaning she has mentored over 400 teachers around the world to teach in the way of IB. She now serves as the Vice Principal of Silver Oaks, Mighty Oaks campus. I welcome you all to this episode of Knowledge Seeker's Journey.
Thank you.
To begin with, I would like you all to brainstorm a little and let me know what is the image that comes to your mind when I say the phrase knowledge seeker.
Okay, a picture, an image.
An image, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, an image.
So metaphorically,
Yes.
I think what comes to my mind is a learner, surrounded with books or media sources or, a magnifying glass and always ready with all his senses open to receive and then processing. So maybe that's the image that I think of.
Okay, that's very nice.
So for me, always the word, the word yet is very important when you are a knowledge seeker. Everyone has to remember, whether it is a teacher or a student or a professional, we know something, but we need to know something more. So we are not there yet. So yet gives that a perspective that it's a knowledge seeking is a continuum. It can never be absolute. It is always, the pursuit is always continuous. So for me, the small word yet has a very profound significance as a knowledge seeker.
Yeah, for me, knowledge we are always acquiring all the time. whether we like it or do not like it. We have these 5 senses, right? These instruments, they are constantly capturing all the knowledge or all the information and data and converting into knowledge at every moment, whether we like it or do not like it. The only thing that will make a difference or will convert into a knowledge seeker is conscious or versus unconscious data capturing that we are doing.
Aniket.
Uh, Being a knowledge seeker, I think, means a person who is sort of on a path. Some parts of it are laid out, some parts are discovered by the person themselves.
Wow, great. So it's like a road. Some part of it is visible, but the other part is not visible, and the learner, the seeker, is standing there and taking steps forward. That's such a beautiful image to begin with. Now, let us deep dive into these conversations where I will ask our panelists questions and we will understand what being knowledgeable is through those conversations. So, Ruchit, I would like to understand and know, when something feels difficult, what helps you to keep trying?
Like in a subject or in like general?
Of learning, it could be subject, it could be extracurricular activity, it could be anything. So, when you feel that it is difficult, what keeps you on the path and keeps you trying?
If I face something which is a difficulty for me, I would most likely go and approach someone who has better knowledge of it and try to perceive it in very simple terms, and then try to make up my own understanding of it, so that information which has been difficult for me becomes much more easier and simpler to comprehend and understand. So in case if it's as per subject wise, it would always be a teacher doubt. And if it's extracurriculars, I always know which teacher to approach to.
So, when you talked about teachers and coaches, my next question to you is, as a role model, who do you see as knowledgeable? In today's life, it is very important to have role models. With the world being so much on the virtual platform, who do you think is your role model for being knowledgeable?
For being knowledgeable, I would choose my mother as my role model. She has been knowledgeable even through tough times. She has learned through situations. She has been book smart and street smart. She has taught me a lot of lessons throughout my life, and I am grateful to have a mother like her.
That's so wonderful. It is so important that the parents and the house gives these is also contributing in building these qualities and values in children. So with that, I would like to ask a parent, Mr. Deepak Bharadwaj. As a parent, how do you try to model curiosity and learning for your children?
It's a beautiful one. So, first thing is, for anything where we need to acquire some knowledge, right? And specifically, that begins with that first word you used as the curiosity, right? So, as a parent, what we do is that the way we understand is we just need to provide the right environment, right? So once the environment is rightly set, those curiosities are inevitable. Those things will automatically pop up. And then second time is that when some small kid is asking you a question, how you are responding back to that, right? Whether you are encouraging or whether you are discouraging or whether you are saying that, okay, you be very open, logical, and then explore it your way. And then let's have a discussion at a later point of time. So those type of things we practice at our at our home with my 2 daughters. So
setting that culture of having open conversations, allowing them to ask questions.
Right. And before we do that, one thing I realized, again, being a parent teaches us a lot, right? So you need to trust your kids first before they start trusting you. So you need to be trusting them more.
So with that, I come to the next very big influence in seeking knowledge, the school. You are an academic leader, and in a typical classroom, it would always be that children are there and the adult is the teacher. And children are learning all these things as the foundational skills. But in your classroom, teachers, the adults are the students there who already have had some kind of a foundational skill. So, my question to you is, mentoring hundreds of teachers over the years, what have been your greatest learnings about how adults seek, resist, or embrace new knowledge?
That's I think quite an interesting question here. Um, Young learners are easy to be influenced or inspired, but adults come with a certain belief or certain fixed mindset that they have grown up in such an environment. Um, Now, as a trainer or as a leader of that group, you would need to remember that attitudinal thing in the adults. They come with a certain amount of current knowledge that they have about something. I think creating multiple styles of learning. So when we even design 1 hour or a 2 hours lesson for the teachers also, it is very important that we first respect with what they come with. And it's not very easy to see through them or to reach through them. So I think a more open culture or open mindedness and respecting their knowledge and perspective is also important, first to win their trust and make them feel confident about what they already are. So starting with what you already know and then showing them as to how it could be done differently. So can I take an example from any one of the workshops? So when I do these workshops with multiple kinds of teachers across the country or even outside the country, say for example, curriculum. People have a certain fixed mindset about curriculum, which is basically subjects. Where does curriculum lie around you, or what is curriculum for you? So it starts with that. And then, by default, the responses are like, oh, there is social studies, there is science, or the mathematics, mostly the conventional curriculum. Yes, the silos, the islands in which. But
Or the
then
conditioning we had.
other preconditioning that we all grew up in. But then is curriculum only that? What about the values, or what about the skill set that we also teach in the school? Or, or what do we do by learning that science or social? So that's where the next part of the curriculum begins. So I think that 1 hour session that I do with the teachers as to unpack the other aspects of curriculum and make them understand that okay, curriculum is not just about conventional knowledge. Then how do you put it into action, or how do you use that knowledge to become a skill? And then how does all of this help you to learn regardless of the age, how old or how young you are? I think that is something I really happy, or I really enjoy when I'm able to win their trust and show them that yes, this is curriculum. And that instead of just being in isolation or as islands, how we can look for connections amongst the subjects, or how you can look for connections as to how it transcends to your daily life. So how it transfers to become a skill, or how it transfers to become something that you are advocating for, or how you are making some changes in your thinking, in your lifestyle. I think that examples, then when we make them see that and unpack, I think that's how I look at having that giving that confidence in the teachers that don't worry, it's not about something, rocket science, while it is a rocket science, but at the same time, there are ways to break through the formula.
I just want to intervene and ask, sir, as a parent, normally there is a constant debate whether this curiosity can be nurtured or is it nature versus nurture. Generally, often we hear from parents that whatever parents give inputs to their children, they are not taking it when it comes to curiosity or exploration. So, what do you think, sir? Can it be nurtured beyond a point, or is it inherent or innate in a child to some extent?
I'll give you two things to this. First thing is every child or every human being goes through multiple conflicts, right? And the less the conflict, the more openness to learn something. So I tell you my example, right? When I was searching for a school, right, I have certain value sets within my family which is running, and I do not wanted any conflict by putting my kid in a school where that kid is struggling, this is correct or that is correct, right? So first thing is that you need to create the right environment, because if you see 16 hours of awakened time, 8 hours in school, 8 hours at home, right? So 50% of the time you are the kid in school and 50% is with you. So that 50%, how much conflict is being generated or how much coherence is there? So you provide the right environment, the curiosity is natural. Only thing is that you should not kill it.
Yeah. You should have that space for them to express, ask questions, however small the question might be.
And you have to be curious. You have to demonstrate that curiosity with your children. So again an example. So we wanted our kid, they were small, right, just a few months, to sleep at an early time, right, around 8:30 time. So we had to do our dinner early and we had to sleep with them so that they develop that rhythm.
Modeling is
So we have to, it's not like we have to teach something to kids. We have to demonstrate and they will learn by themselves.
So since we touched upon, how the home, what it brings, and the school, how it adds in making a child curious, we have Aniket, who has always been a bright student with a perfect 10 CGPA in grade 10, and who is now pursuing engineering physics at IIT Bombay. How did your understanding of what it means to seek knowledge change after entering IIT? Did it change first? And then what it means to seek knowledge? How did it change?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So before entering IIT, so in school, it was, as I said earlier, the knowledge-seeking journey comprises of phases where it's sort of laid out for you and phases where you sort of discover for yourself. And I think mostly before entering college, it was more or less laid out. I mean, I had an idea of where I was going, but after entering IIT, there are numerous options. There are so many options, and in fact, even the courses have to be selected by us. So I need to ask myself firstly what I want to know, and then why I want to know it. Absolutely. It's not sort of laid out for me like in school. So I need to do a lot of self-reflection. So self-reflection comes in it, and also discussions with peers and seniors, and with a lot of thought, finally, you get to decide. So it's very much more active in a way, I would say, after entering IIT, this knowledge-seeking journey.
As you said, in the school, things are laid out for a student. But here in the school, how did the school prepare you for that journey when you pass through, graduate through the school, you go out of the gate, you are an independent seeker. How did the school prepare you for that?
I think the school uses a beautiful word called learner agency. So, yeah, so it means, I think, to take ownership of your learning. So the school encourages us to be responsible for what we want to learn and everything that we are also told through books, so that we can, be prepared for the world when all the doors open after we leave the school.
Since, everyone sees you as a bright child, probably everyone sees you as very endowed with all the faculties, academic faculties that you have. But every knowledge seeker faces moments of struggle. So, can you share an experience where confusion or failure led to deeper understanding?
Well, I think it's the example I'll share is very much related to what I just said. So, in the end of my first year at college, we were required to sort of make a choice about the courses which we are going to take, and that was sort of the first time where I was left with an open choice. What I do for like the next 3 years completely depends on what I choose in that 1 week. So that was like, it felt like a big burden at that time.
So, the entire life choice in 1 week.
Not life choice, but a huge part of what I'll do in college. So yeah, I had to sit down and do a lot of rumination. I remember sitting down for like 2 hours one night just thinking about what I will do. So that, and also discussions with parents, and also talking to seniors, and trying to figure out how they did it, and sort of looking at all the opportunities. That's very important. And yeah, I think after that I could sort of choose what I wanted to learn later on in college.
So, as I asked Ruchit, when he is stuck with something or when he finds it very difficult, how does he keep trying still? How do you do that?
Well, the first thing is I just sit down and think I calm myself down so that
That's very important.
yeah,
Yes.
because sometimes our perspective becomes very narrow when we are in the middle of things, reactive. So it's important to first sit down and think straight, and after that, it's, if you can figure it out yourself, well and good. Otherwise, uh, talking to people and discussing with people who have already done it before, it's a great strategy. And maybe also reading some things, all of that really helps.
So, my question now to Harini. Harini, you said, you believe learning to be, your image of knowledgeable is yet. It's a comma that you keep on adding, it's not a full stop. So, you taught CBSE economics earlier, and now moving from CBSE to this IBDP framework, it requires a shift in mindset. What did you have to unlearn and relearn in this transition? And how has Silver Oaks helped you in discovering this interest?
Quite a deep question. I have to really go back into a decade of my. But I would like to just not use the word unlearn as it is. Of course, from CBSE to IB, now currently I'm teaching diploma students economics. To whatever existing knowledge and experiences I had as a CBSE teacher, I had to add more layers and dimensions to it. So I had to make, in IB especially, it is always a triad. It's a triangle, not a linear straight line. Now what are the corners of the triangle? It is the content, concept, and the context. So this beautiful triangle keeps the teacher always on the edge. We have to keep pushing our boundaries. So in IB, my constant endeavor always is how to complete this triangle. So content, of course, the body of knowledge that we discuss in the classroom had to be contextualized through a real world example, and concept is the lens through which you look at it. So it's beautifully structured, and as a teacher, I have to be always on the exploration for newer frontiers of knowledge, so that I can make the discipline more like a living discipline in the class than a static body of knowledge. So this transition, though not greatly different as a teacher, earlier also in CBSE I used to do it, but in IB it is so much embedded as part of our experience as a teacher and as a learner. So completing this triad is really 24/7, you are in that zone always, mentally. The mindset is that you are always in that thinking zone where you are looking at how can you contextualize a particular theory in the classroom with an example, so that students can connect to it as an experience, not as mere content in the classroom. So I can...
The point I picked up from this is context and experience. Because if you have knowledge, but in order to show yourself as knowledgeable, you should be able to retrieve that thing back. And that is a skill, right? And that comes when you have the right context and experience associated with that knowledge packet which you are teaching.
Just to quote a simple example, now my students, the way they initiate the conversation in my class, I am trying to show the contrast here. Whatever news items which come in the newspaper, which probably are seemingly uneventful, like say government increased some taxes on cigarettes. It is just a passing headline in the newspaper. But the conversations in the classroom are about indirect taxes, the impact on different stakeholders. So what I try to say is that the kind of wiring of your brain, the conditioning of your brain, it happens because of this triangle that I'm talking about. Now, for that to happen effectively, as a learner, as a teacher, I have to be in that zone always, so that my conversation in the classroom are at that level. So IB definitely has created that kind of an ecosystem for a teacher first. Not that it was not happening in CBSE, it used to happen. But the requirements of IB is such that it has to happen, it must happen. So my mindset shift, if I call it as a shift, is about living, eating, sleeping, drinking, that always. And it is a kind of a thinking we develop over a period of time. So just like how a math student develops mathematical thinking, language students develop a kind of a sense for linguistics. Same thing for economics, it's about economic thinking. So that happens with this kind of connections that we make in the classroom. For that, as I told you, my go-to word is always yet. So whenever I read something, it is always, okay, what can I do with it in the classroom? How can I make this piece of information into knowledge and then translate that into wisdom to make certain choices and decisions? So it's a continuum, continuity, and being in that zone always, and conditioning your mind to think in a particular way. So I hope I have answered it.
Beautiful answer. And as we come near to the close of this episode, I would invite you all to share one insight that you have taken from this conversation today. And looking at the paucity of time, I would like to you to keep it brief and short. I would want to begin with Ruchit.
So a lot of the insights that were given on this table were from different parts of life, as you had introduced at the start. But what I had picked up from this is that, as I stated before, knowledge is a never-ending process. Yeah. And you gaining knowledge is gaining something intangible. It doesn't weigh, but it has value. So
So beautifully put.
So what I have picked up from this table in specific is mostly from the conditioning of the triangle. So the 3 pointers. And another thing is that you need to connect with your teachers and your educators as well, because they're the ones who are explaining and giving the knowledge to you. So when they're passing it on to you, you must ensure that you understand the concept around 360 degrees. And if you have any inputs, you can share it as well. And this would lead to a whole other learning. So from one branch, there would be many tiny branches that emerges.
So nicely put, Ruchit. Now we'll go to Aniket.
I think one thing I've picked up is that knowledge is not just about acquiring information, but it's also about having the awareness to know how to use what you know in a way.
I think that's where information is different from knowledge. Yeah, very beautifully put. Sangeetha.
So we just were having the discussion before we even walked in here, Ruchit, myself. Information is there, but how do you process it? You've stored it. How you process it and how do you convert it into knowledge is the journey of knowledge seeking. And to each role that we are in, it is different and lot of it is common. I think that's the takeaway that I could have from this.
One thing I learned from this young chap, Aniket, is knowledge is the foundational building block for the decision making, right? So we make decisions throughout our lives, and all those decisions are based on some knowledge packet somewhere. So being conscious about which knowledge packet to be used for which decision, that awareness, you use the word, I love that word, that the awareness of which packet to use for which decision, that is the takeaway for me. Yeah.
I think I would be echoing the same sentiment that other panelists have here. I mean, normally we use the words information, knowledge, and wisdom more or less synonymously. But I feel we are in this age and time, we are exposed to tons and tons of information. Some of it gets converted into knowledge, but very little of it converts into wisdom. So in the intervening points between all these things, I think that is where character comes in. The character profile that we talk about in the school. So the transition between information, knowledge, and wisdom is what is sandwiched by the character profile that we talk about. So to make right choices, as Aniket said, how do we make right choices? So we are all product of the choices that we make ultimately. So the character profile is very much important to filter the knowledge that we have to make right decisions wisely and hence evolve as a whatever individual that we want to see ourselves.
The insight that I am taking forward, there are two insights rather. One is the word yet. I always see knowledge as a continuum where it continues and I never know, I can never put a full stop to it. There's always a comma and then it keeps extending. The other was that image where, Aniket shared about a knowledge seeker is standing and there is a path ahead. Some of it is lit, but some of it is not. As we conclude this conversation, what I would like to tell is knowledge is not what we know, but knowledge is that curiosity and the openness to keep learning. Thank you for joining us in this conversation. We look forward to welcoming you back again in our next episode, where we will continue to having these conversations, listening, reflecting, and learning together. 3 cheers to Silver Circles.
Let's build a bridge to tomorrow.